I'm a proud mother of this young black man growing up in today's society. Our children need to understand the legacy that we are creating here and now, and that they will continue on with this journey for the freedom right to vote, because we are never going to get up. And again, we are here to send a strong message that we will not stop, we will not quit, because we are family, we are united, and we are union, and we have the power. So when I say union, you say power. Union, 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 union. I love you, family. Thank you.
Thank you, Kimberly. The brightest point of my year in 2020 was I became a union member and a union worker. So union, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I am going to bring on someone I personally know, have worked with and loved, who understands how the church and the faith community can really ground and center a community and a neighborhood and build. And so I want to bring out Bishop Robert Haley III of More Excellent Way Ministries. He is changing the West Side as we speak for the better.
Good evening. How are you guys doing? Come on, how are you doing? Are you awake out there? We're just so, first, I want to say I welcome and thank you all for traveling here to West Virginia. And I know there's a theory that there's no black people that live in West Virginia, but we do have some folks that came out of here like Randy Moss and some others that are in the NFL and pro basketball. So there are blacks in West Virginia, and we're proud of them. We thank God that we were able to come to be with you on tonight, and we want to encourage you. There's a lot of negative things that are happening in our world today. We know what's happening with the pandemic and what has happened with voter registration and our 45th president. We just know that was a disaster altogether. But we thank God that we look past all of that and realize our full potential. Our potential is that we're not going to lose. We're not going to fade away. We're not going to go away, but we're going to go forward. We're going to grow. We're going to be better. And what that means is that sometimes we can't wait on government to do things for us. Sometimes we got to take it upon ourselves to purchase our goods from black-owned and black-sensitive companies. It means that we have to go out and start our own companies. If you can't find a job, get you a food cart and go somewhere and start cooking. Let me tell you something. The potential in us, you got to realize for over 3,000 years, they've tried to wipe us out. And all those 3,000 years, we've always found some way to come back. And so now is just another time. Yes, we need to get behind our black politicians and those that are sensitive to the black vision. But most of all, we got to look within ourselves and see what we can do about changing our destiny. I think about right now, I think a couple of weeks ago, they were celebrating Black Wall Street in Tulsa. And the thing of it is, we need to be starting Black Wall Streets all over America. We need to make up in our mind that if your banks won't lend to us, we'll start banks, we'll start credit unions, and we'll do it our way. Our church is located on Virginia Street on the west side of Charleston. Now, you got to realize Virginia Street is at the other end of this capital. And the ironic thing is, halfway down, you'll find the City Hall. Right across the street from the City Hall, you see Kanawha County Commission. And none of those really support us the way they do, the way they should. So we made up in our mind that with the help of God and the help of our loved ones, our community, we're going to do it ourselves. So when you do it yourself, they have no strings to hold. They have no buttons to push. And so therefore, we've got to realize our blessings and our goals are already in us. A scripture in the Bible says this, that I have put treasures in earthen vessels. You got to realize you're that earthen vessel. You're the one that's going to change your community and change your children's destiny and even change your destiny. So you got to make up your mind, regardless of what anybody else is doing. We're going to vote right. We're going to walk right. And we're going to change our destiny ourselves. Can anybody give me an amen? All right, God bless you.
All right, you caught me slipping for a second. I was on a water break, but I'm back. And we're going to have another moment of culture, another moment of beautiful music. I want to welcome Mr. Walter Tabar.
Perfect. Yeah, that's better. Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you, brother. You guys are beautiful. So grateful to be here with you guys right now. The sun's shining and it's so hot out here, but we're all still here together. I'm gonna play you guys a couple original songs. Title of this first song is Maybe There's a Time. The song's for all the people that aren't here with us right now. And hope you guys enjoy it. Well, maybe. Yeah, I've walked every lonely street, just staring at my feet. I thought God in every woe had given up on me, but maybe there's a time and a place I'll see your face. Yeah, I made a wish on a shooting star. I could be where you are. And I remember the look in your eyes. Lord, it caught me by surprise. Maybe there's a time and a place I'll see your face. Yeah, I've walked every lonely street, staring at my feet. I thought God in every woe had given up on me, but maybe there's a time and a place I'll see your face. Thank you guys so much. I cannot thank you guys enough. I can't express how grateful I am for you guys having me. So I wrote this song, and the title of this song is Blackened. I wrote this song about segregation, and couldn't think of a more fitting time to play it. So. You think the worst of me, push came to shove, just couldn't let it be. You're coming through in layers, down on your knees, saying your prayers. But I guess you broke down, blackened, bitter to the bone. I guess your ashes, this is what happens when you couldn't leave love alone. I can see it in your eyes. You're all out of promises, all you got's goodbye. You're hurting just to feel. Stuck in this world where nothing's real. But I guess you broke down, blackened, bitter to the bone. I guess your ashes, this is what happens when you couldn't leave love alone, oh Lord. Yeah, I guess you broke down, blackened, bitter to the bone. I guess your ashes, this is what happens when you couldn't leave love alone, oh Lord. Thank you guys so much for being here with us. It means the world.
Thank you, Walter. I can't, woo! Let's give it. I couldn't be a roadie though, because I can't help with equipment. So next, I want to bring on a woman who represents Southern West Virginia so beautifully. I don't think she needs any more words as she saunters up to the stage and to the mic. Miss Loretta.
Thank you, Jennifer. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Almost Heaven, West Virginia. We are so happy to see you. I want to give to the people what they want. Do you remember that song, Give the People? Where's the DJ? Do we know that song? Can you say, give the people, right? We need to give the people what they want. And what do they want? We want to pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis voting bill. We want to thank all of you all for showing up tonight, and you're going to show out with us tonight, I'm sure. We are the people needs to be our first priority. We have got to be united in our voices. Our voices must be heard because we need the people to win for once. For once. Oftentimes it's the people in office in D.C. that win, but we want to win here in West Virginia, in Georgia, in Pennsylvania. It is essential in West Virginia that the For the People Act is passed. It's essential. One out of every 5 children live in poverty in West Virginia. 1 in 5, every 5 children go to bed at night hungry in West Virginia. We need representation that reflects who we are, the people, ordinary people. Have you, and if you've ever driven down the roads of West Virginia, did any of you run into a pothole on your way here? Our infrastructure is so antique and so old. Our water, in many places in West Virginia, we do not have clean water. It is essential. Say it, essential. Essential. It's essential that we pass For the People Act. The year is 2021, and hear me clearly. Clearly, broadband and access to the internet is essential. A what? Essential. There was a question as to whether or not broadband and internet was part of the infrastructure. Believe me, 2021, it is essential. Thank you. So many people have given up on West Virginia. There used to be this joke that said, the last person out of West Virginia turned off the lights. Believe me, West Virginia is stirred up. You have stirred us up. We are hardcore fighters. Do you hear me? We are going to fight. Fight. We are going to fight for the rights. You are deserving of a win. I am deserving of a win. Our children are deserving of a win. It's time for the average person in America to win. We need jobs, 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 jobs. Thank you so much for coming. It's wonderful to have you as part of our committee here. Feel like we have brothers and sisters, have known each other for years. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Miss Loretta. All right. So I get to introduce somebody that I admire, that I watch, that I follow on social media, that I have been charmed to know for a couple of years because we've been in this work together. And I'm just, fangirling. Miss Inse Ufot from New Georgia Project.
Thank you. Hey, what's happening, Charleston? Good evening. All right. Where my $15 and a union voters at? All right? Where are my Black Voters Matter voters at? All right. Where are my clean air and clean water voters at? All right. Where are my you shouldn't go broke because you're sick voters at? All right. Where is it? We want the banks to stop playing Monopoly with our future voters at. Right. Quality education for all. Where are those voters at? Right. Where are my no human is illegal voters at? Right? Thank you. My name is Ense Ufot, and we join you here all the way from Atlanta, Savannah, Macon, and Augusta, Georgia. Right? When our sister Latasha and our brother Cliff said that we are resurrecting the freedom rides, that we're going to start in Mississippi, and go all the way to Washington, D.C., and show this country that the majority of Americans want the For the People Act, that the majority of Americans want one person, one vote to be the law of the land. Oh, and quiet as it's kept, the majority of West Virginians want the For the People Act. 8 out of 10 West Virginians want to see this become the law of the land. So guess what? Somebody lying, right? Somebody's not telling the truth, right? Somebody wanted us to think that we didn't understand West Virginia politics. Somebody wanted us to think that we didn't understand that there were leaders in West Virginia outside of one singular voice, right? That there's an opportunity to build the West Virginia of our dreams, of our futures, where our families can move from just surviving to thriving. Listen, it's been a minute since I've been to confession. It's been a minute since I stood up in front of the church and gave my testimony, but I'm here today to bear witness, right? To let people know that it is the power of the people that's going to save us. Ain't no hero, ain't no Calvary coming. It's us. It's us. It's up to us to love each other, to protect each other. You see, you got a Danielle Walker here, right? You got a Wells here. That there are people in West Virginia, there are leaders in West Virginia, besides this one singular voice, who know your communities, who know what your priorities are. I see you, Mr. Lewis. How you doing, Magistrate? I'm doing well. That there are tons of voices in West Virginia that know what your priorities are, that are accountable to your communities. So let's make sure that we elevate their voices. Make sure that we are loud. Make sure that we don't let people go to Washington, D.C., or come here to Charleston and lie about what West Virginians want and need in this moment. Not now, not ever. So, I believe that we will win. 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 I love you. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you, Inse. All right, something beautiful, something powerful, something that is an example to all of us happened in Texas. Not the voter suppression laws, we know how that's going down, but the fact that when there was an opportunity to stand in solidarity, they stood. There were certain legislators that stood in solidarity and said no. They showed courage in the face of all, right? And how blessed are we here in West Virginia that we get to hear from one of those representatives. I want to welcome Texas State Representative Gina Enosa.
Thank you. Orale, I bring you greetings from Texas, but people didn't tell me I was going to be among my people, and I didn't wear my rally shoes. It's good to be among my brothers and sisters. I'm Gina Hinojosa, a state representative from Austin, Texas, and I want to thank the New Georgia Project for bringing me here to tell our story of Texas. Because in Texas right now, we are in the fight of our lives defending the people's right to vote. Last month, we walked off the floor of the Texas House to deny the Republican majority the quorum they needed to pass their voter suppression bill, a bill that, if passed, would have been the most oppressive voter suppression law in the entire country. This bill, Senate Bill 7, made a mockery of our processes in the Texas legislature. By the way, what a beautiful Capitol you all have here in West Virginia. I just wanted to say that before I went on. But made a mockery of our processes in the Texas Capitol. Do you know that the author of the bill, the chairman of the Elections Committee in the Texas House, would not recognize the chair of the Black Caucus to ask a question about the bill in the hearing on Senate Bill 7, would not recognize the woman to ask a question. Do you know that on the Senate side, they suspended our Constitution to pass this bill in the Senate just mere hours after we saw the language? They had added 20 pages to this bill with new provisions we had never seen, a provision that targeted Black voters by banning Sunday morning voting, what's known as souls to the polls in many of our Black churches was being targeted. There was another provision that said, we're going to lower the standard for overturning an election, overturning the will of the people. These provisions in this bill were so bad that even the Republican author of the bill, after the fact, after we walked out and killed their bill, said, yeah, I don't agree with that. I don't know where those provisions came from. That's what we're dealing with in Texas. We had little choice. We didn't have the votes to block the bill. We're the minority party in Texas. We could walk, but it's only ever happened 3 times in the history of our state that the legislature has broken quorum. And then we knew our governor would call us back for a special session to pass the bill anyway. But here's what happened. The day before we left, my phone blew up. Messages from constituents, calls, social media saying, we don't care what happens next week in a special session. We don't care what happens next month. If you can kill this bill tomorrow, do it. We live to fight another day. Kill this bill. And we did. The next day, I called the contacts in the White House. I said, we need an audience with the White House. We need to pass the For the People Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. Last week, we met with the Vice President, Kamala Harris. We met with the Speaker. We met with the Senate Majority Leader. And in those meetings, we learned that y'all's senator is the key to passing federal voting rights legislation. So the power is in your hands. So I came all the way from Texas. I got up at 5 a.m. to be here 12 plus hours later because you all hold the power. You all hold the power. It is not lost on me as a legislator from Central Texas that there was once a president from Central Texas, President Lyndon Johnson, who 50 years ago championed the 1965 Voting Rights Act. Today, we are fighting for those same rights, and again, we look to Washington for help. This is the voting rights fight of our time. This is West Virginia. This is your moment. This is a moment in history. And so I came here because I want to know, and Americans across this country want to know, are you going to step up and are you going to fight and are you going to stand up for the people and for the voice of the people because it is in your hands? This is your moment. Last week, the Vice President said to us, legislators from Texas, I know you're tired. You've worked hard, but I'm going to ask you, don't stop. Don't give up. So I'm bringing that message to you from our Vice President. Don't stop. Don't give up. Stand up for the rights for the people. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, State Representative. And now I'm going to bring on a powerful, powerful woman, again from the southern part of the state. The southern part of the state is well represented today. But let me tell you, this woman ever calls me and tells me that she wants to lead a charge, I just ask her, when does she need me to show up? And I have the blessings of saying that we both are social workers. So with my honor, I bring to you Ms. Tina Russell, the new chair of the Working Families Party, West Virginia. Woo!
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Who's voting? Who's voting? One more time, who's voting? Bring your neighbors with you too. I am proud to be here representing the Working Families Party as their new head chair. Woo! You can can text to 304-03 and text Tina and find out more about how you can support us and our people and get people out to vote. And I am here today because I want to talk to you about something that inspired me when I was 19 to realize how important it was to vote. Who here has heard of Otis Moss Sr.? Anybody heard that name? Let me tell you a little bit about Otis Moss Sr. Otis Moss Sr. in 1946 put on his Sunday best. He had never voted before in his life, but he had an opportunity to finally vote. All his kids applauded. They were so happy that Otis Moss Sr. was going to get the vote. This happened in 1946 in Georgia. He walked 6 miles to the polling place. He got there and they said, son, you can't vote here. You're going to have to go 6 miles to the next polling place. So he walked 6 more miles to the next polling place. They said, boy, you can't vote here. You got to walk 6 more miles. He got to the next polling place and they said, you too late. The polling place is closed. He walked 18 miles back home. He never got to vote. I vote for Otis Moss Sr. Who else votes for Otis? Let's vote for Otis, okay? The sacrifices that was made, the prices that was paid by our ancestors, the promises must be kept by us, all of us. We have to keep the promise of what they did so we would have the right to vote. Voter suppression cannot stand. We have to have the Four People's Act. We have to have the John Lewis Voting Act. We have to get in good trouble. One of my other leaders that inspired me and made me the person I am today is Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers was a great civil rights leader. One of the most important things he ever said was, you can kill a man, but not an idea. He was assassinated. But we have to fight for people like him. We have to fight for Medgar Evers. We have to fight for the Mississippi 3. Everybody here know who that is? The 3 folks who tried to register people to vote and they were assassinated on their way there. We have to remember these people who were willing to die for what we have today. We have to get our neighbors to the polls. Knock on your neighbor's door and say, hey, how you doing? You registered to vote? It starts with your neighbors. Knock on every door. I served 9 years in the United States Army. I also served in Operation Desert Storm. So I know what sacrifice means. I'm not bragging, I'm simply stating the fact. I would proudly serve again because democracy is worth it. I was willing to die for a person's right to do whatever as long as it's within the First Amendment. But what I also believe is I was not willing to die in vain. I'm willing to die for a democracy. I'm willing to die so my neighbor has the right to vote and not be impeded by voter suppression, by what basically is a poll tax. All these things are not okay. We have to fight very hard, guys. I want you to do something we used to do in the Army, what we call I got your 6. What that means is we had our buddies back no matter what, no matter the cost. I want you to get 6 of your neighbors, get them to the polls. Can we make that promise? Who's got my 6? Who's got my 6? Who's got my 6? All right, guys, I'm gonna take you at your word, all right? I'm also a part of the Black Caucus. We want to see more black people involved in local government. I am also running for Mercer County House of Delegates. I ran last year and I'm running again. And if I lose, I'm gonna run again. You know why? Because we don't stop fighting till we're 6 feet under. And we need more black people to run for office. Run. If we can't win, if we don't run, we gotta be the levels of power. I need everybody here to think about it. If you're not gonna run, support someone else who is running. Get out there and find out what you can do. Knock doors for them, make phone calls. Something as much as 60 votes can decide who will represent your county. It's true, politics is still local, people. Local people have a lot of power in your life. They decide your taxes, they decide your ordinances, they decide a lot. And what that decision will be has a lot to do with who you support and how hard you support them. So you got my 6? You got my 6? Now go vote. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you, Tina. I got you 6. So I'm going to bring on a poet, a person that I know, a person that I've grown to respect, even in just the last 72 hours. So much more since our Juneteenth celebration in Huntington. So, Miss Teresa Galloway.
What's up, family? How we doing? Thank you guys for stopping in my hometown, Charleston, West Virginia. I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the area, but welcome, welcome, welcome. I hope you guys are enjoying yourselves. I am born and raised in Charleston, West Virginia. My mother is from Mississippi. So what's up, Cleveland? I just want to share my gift with you all. I know you have no idea who I am, most of you, but I am a poet here in Charleston. I've been doing poetry for probably, 90% of my life. So I wrote this poem called The Holiday. I wrote it for a Juneteenth celebration that we did last weekend. The reason that I wrote the poem and named it The Holiday is because I firmly believe that they gave us the holiday to distract us from the fact that they didn't really give us what we wanted. So I want y'all to follow with me with this poem. It'll be short, quick. I'll get out y'all's hair and then we can have some more fun, okay? I want to take today to talk about what has been accomplished, mostly because my school textbook never mentioned how freedom and condemnation coexisted for such a long time. They think that this day off granted us permission to have a day off, but today I plan to show off because some of y'all thought that I was so soft. Y'all was so lost. So go ahead and put your vest on as we explore a journey till Galveston, 1863. The year of the Emancipation Proclamation, a piece of paper that proclaimed that freedom was our new destination. But many of my people lived with anticipation, hoping to subside their devastation, believing that emancipation meant that a man should pay them. But freedom remained a secret and developed into hatred. But you want me to be a patriot. July 4th, 1776, we cut our ties with another nation. While colonies got fed up and started to fuss, Big King George was still a patron. And when the tea hit the sea, why didn't our tribulation? This Caucasian evasion created generations filled with confusion and frustration, fear and inflation of broken homes with no patience to undo the damage of damnation. And we supposed to celebrate being free? Nah, pay them their reparations. And don't forget, our history is history, so make it a part of our education. Fireworks and popsicles are cool, but police brutality was discovered in the streets and inherited at the station. Stop playing with me. You see, y'all celebrated freedom like America's birthday, and while the sky lit up bright, y'all were steady creating black graves. It took 2.5 years for you to make your way to Texas. I'm sorry we interrupted your breakfast, but can someone tell me how much more reckless we should be accepting? The real issue is black people have always been a fetish. Strong workers, beautiful skin, God's favorite delicacy. So y'all changed the rules, but see, y'all some fools for thinking that heaven sees your skin before your heart. I hear that tickets to hell are pretty cheap, especially when you put innocent people away, painting them as felons. You see, I'm grateful for the holiday. But as history has taught us, paper doesn't mean a thing. I'll spark up a firework when freedom really rings.
All right, now you see what I was talking about, right? Woo! Yes, 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 yes. And we have another powerful, powerful, powerful woman from West Virginia who has stood in the midst of the storm and who has fought and who still continues to fight. I respect, I admire, and I love her, Miss Marianne Cleater.
How y'all doing?
Look, I'm as West Virginia as you can get. I'm a coal miner's daughter, born and raised up in a holler near the mines in the coal fields. So if somebody tell you we don't have any black people here, then you just let them know they better check themselves, because we do. And many of you may not know me from, I ran in 2016 as for a statewide office for a state auditor. The only person that actually had an accounting degree was a real auditor. And I shocked people because I beat the candidate that had been handpicked by the establishment. So don't tell me if we don't get out there and fight that you can't win. But unfortunately, we got Trump that year, and I didn't make it on to be able to be the next auditor. But then in 2020, I didn't give up. My son died on January the 20th, and then I ran for office again, went to register to sign up on January the 20th. Because one thing you know about our people is we don't let anybody knock us down and tell us that we can't do anything. We'll keep fighting and fighting and fighting and fighting because we know what it's like. And I'll tell you, I've had experience about being, how they say about if they might invite you to the table, but you can be on the menu with them staring you right in the face. So don't think just because you get invited to the table that they're going to honor your request. That's why we got to get out and fight. That's why we got to get out and vote. We got to let them know that black votes do indeed matter. And I wanted to let you all know what those in power always want us to fight each other. And we're sick and tired of that. Anybody in here sick and tired of fighting each other? Well, Dr. King, he reminded us that Pharaoh had a great formula for prolonging slavery in Egypt. You want to know what that was? He kept the slaves fighting among themselves, because when the slaves get together, what do y'all know about that? When the slaves get together, something happens in Pharaoh's court. He can no longer hold the slaves in slavery, because when the slaves get together, that is the beginning of getting out of slavery. Well, in our time today, we might not be in that type of slavery, but they are still trying to use us as completely disposable tools just to get our votes and think that they're not going to have to honor what was put on paper. Are you ready to make them honor what was put on paper today? We're going to stand strong. We're not going to be divided. I'm calling on my black brothers and my black sisters. And I'm calling on my brown brothers and my brown sisters. And I'm calling on my white brothers and my white sisters. I'm calling on my Latin sisters and my Latin brothers. I'm calling on my gay brothers and sisters. And I'm calling on my straight brothers and sisters. I'm calling on my Christian brothers and sisters. And I'm calling on my non-Christian brothers and sisters to stand together with us, because if you think you're not going to be on the menu at this time, just wait a little bit longer, because they coming after you too. Anybody know they going to come after you too? That's why we got to stand up. We got to stand strong. We got to motivate our neighbors and our friends to come and get on this freedom ride, because they all suffering from the same afflictions that we got going on. If you think that the oppression that goes on is just affecting black people, it's not. It's affecting poor white people in West Virginia too. That's why we can't leave them behind. They might have been fooled, they might have been tricked to think that somebody else got their job because of the color of their skin, but we still got to talk to them and let them know it's because those in governance over us do not want us to join together. What they want us to do is to fight each other so that they can do a divide and a conquer. Well, they're mistaken today. The divide and conquer, it is today. It is right now. It's not going forward. We come too far to go back now. We're pressing forward. We're moving towards the goal. And they're going to know. And when you get out and get everybody registered to vote, you got to get them a ride to the polls. polls. And then after we get these people elected to office, you let them know you are accountable. I don't care what party you belong to. You're accountable for your vote. And if you don't vote in our interest, and you keep on voting because of the money being thrown in your direction, we're going to vote your tail out just like we voted your tail in. So fight, motivate, activate, let's coordinate, let's show them what the power of the people is about. Power to the people.
We vote, we win. We vote, we win. We vote, we win. Thank you, Marianne. What did we tell y'all that West Virginia has something to say? When they forget about us and think we don't have power and voice, do we not show y'all? Did we not show out today? Okay, I think we did. We did. And there's more where that came from. We got brilliance and jewels all over this state. But now I want to welcome a visitor, a guest, Marcus Batchelor. And please tell me I didn't murder your last name. I got it? All right.
Freedom fighters, let me hear you say, fired up, ready to go, fired up, ready to go. I am so happy to be here on behalf of People for the American Way, a national partner to Black Voters Matter. We represent 1,300 young progressive elected officials in all 50 states, the District of Columbia and the U.S. Virgin Islands, 3,000 black and brown ministers across the country, and thousands of activists like you down for the fight. And I'm so excited to be here because you're right. West Virginia has something to say. Can we get a round of applause for West Virginia? But let me tell you something, y'all. We came from all around the country to let y'all know that we have something to say to West Virginia Senator. We got something to say to Joe Manchin. We got something to say. We got to tell him that he's going to stop playing politics with our vote, that our freedom is non-negotiable, that our power is not a bargaining chip, and that it's not a political platform. You can't use us to build your moderate brand. To hell with your moderate brand. Your moderation is getting us killed. And we're here to say that enough is enough, that the time for posturing is over, that we tried it your way, Joe Manchin, and your Republican colleagues showed you what they would do when you asked them nicely. They showed you what they would do when you tried to negotiate with them. And the answer is nothing. So now, Joe Manchin, it's time to end the Jim Crow filibuster and pass the For the People Act, pass the John Lewis Voters' Right Advancement Act. But I came on the blackest bus in America to let y'all know that our work ain't done until we make D.C. the blackest state in America. And Joe Manchin's got a lot of excuses about why D.C. can't be a state. Now, let me tell you something. Is it because we don't pay our fair share of federal taxes? No, I saw my pay stub the other day. We definitely do. We pay the highest federal taxes per person in the country, higher in general than 22 states. Is it because we don't serve in the military or sacrifice for our country? Nope. We fought and bled and died in every war since this country's inception, so it's not that. Is it because we're irresponsible that we don't balance our budget? No, DC's balanced more budgets than the federal government has in the last 2 decades. And so he says, well, no, we're gonna shift the way we create a state. That unlike the other 37 times we've added a state to the union, because last time I remember the 35th state, West Virginia, was called something different not too long ago, and we created a state without a constitutional amendment. But we're here to say that it's not about constitutionality, that we can create a state just like we have 37 other times with a majority vote in the Senate and the House and a signature by the president, and we're here to call BS, and we want you to do what's right by the 700,000 mostly black and brown people. So if we say black votes matter, we got to say all black voters matter, including the folks who live in my hometown. It's not about constitutionality, Joe Manchin. It's about white supremacy. And we're here to say that we're going to beat that down too. So we got work to do. And we know, like it's been said before, that West Virginia is at the center. Not your senator, you. And we need you to show your power, to flex your muscles, to not just move West Virginia forward, but the whole country. That's why we're here today. That's why we veered a little bit off our path to come to the seat of power here to say that y'all have to do what you must do so that all of us can thrive. And that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna take this fight back to the 51st state, soon to be. And we're gonna tell Joe Manchin and all of his Republican friends that enough is enough, that we're here to end the BS, that we're here to get what we've been owed for centuries. And we won't stop until we win. So let me hear you, West Virginia. Are you fired up? Ready to go? 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 Let's go win. Love y'all.
I'm fired up, Marcus. All right, we're going to turn it now to Jonathan Wesley and his band.
Hey, this is beautiful. Thank everybody for being here. This is Jonathan Wesley and the Unit Band. Come on and rock with us.
crying, yeah. Brother, brother, there's far too many of you dying. Oh, we gotta find a way to bring some love in here today. Father, Father, we don't need to escalate. Oh, you see, war is not the answer. But only love can conquer hate. Oh, we gotta find a way to bring some love in Please tell me what's going on. Thank you. We are the Unit Band.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And so the moment has arrived. The moment has arrived. We are welcoming our guests of honor who have brought the blackest bus in America here to Charleston, West Virginia. Latasha Brown and Cliff Albright.
I'm going to be real short, but I want to say, hey, West Virginia. You know, when we got here, when we were riding through, I was like, this is a beautiful state. You know, but more than that, they're beautiful people. And I don't know if you all know the history in West Virginia, but the largest labor uprising in the nation in history happened right here, where the coal miners were saying, we're not going to take it anymore. Like literally the roots of resistance run deep here, y'all. And so you have to know, there are three things I want you to remember. The first thing is I want to share a little story about Georgia. For years, folks would talk about Georgia. When it came to the presidential election, they was like, oh, no, that's a red state. No, they don't matter. This year, on 2020, where was the action? It was in Georgia. So once again, here we are at this moment in time. And yes, oftentimes we don't hear them talk about West Virginia, but guess who is the most powerful voters in this nation right now? The voters in West Virginia, right? You have the power. So the first thing I want you to recognize is that you got power. When I say love, you say power. Love. Love. The second thing I want you to do is real quick. I always do this wherever I am. I want you to close your eyes. My quick question to you is, what would West Virginia look like without racism, without poverty, without oppression? Now open your eyes. The reason why I ask you that question, because there's nothing that will be brought into the physical world that is not first envisioned. We got to envision a West Virginia where poverty no longer exists. We got to envision a West Virginia that racism and homophobia and none of those things that keep us divided, none of those things that attack our very humanity exists. And so I'm going to call you to literally, you are visionaries. You are the futurists as we go forward. So you've got to have a vision. That's the second thing. The third thing I'm going to say is the way we get things changed in this country, sometimes we got to put on our shoes and we got to fight. We got to stand up for what is right, y'all. Joe Manchin ain't stronger than you. That you are the voters. Just as you put them there, you can hold them accountable and not only take them out, your voice matters. So I just want you to say and to think that at the end of the day, West Virginia, y'all got something to say. And the rest of us are listening. And we're standing with you. You have to really recognize where your real is. The real power is with the people. The real power is in our spirit, just as those 100 in that uprising, there were 100 labor movement folks that were murdered. But guess what? They changed the entire game and laid the foundation for unions to expand in this country. So the roots of resistance run deep here, y'all. And so we got to stand in that space and in that power. Well, the first thing I did right was the day I started to fight. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize, y'all. Love y'all. Peace and blessings.
What's going on, West Virginia? How you doing? So I'm not going to talk long. You know, sometimes when a Baptist preacher comes up and says that, you know, you got trouble coming. But I'm really not going to talk long. I'm going to talk about three things, if you don't mind. I'm going to talk about what we want. I'm going to talk about who we are. And then if y'all bear with me a little bit, if y'all be patient, if you want to hear it by the time we get there, I might talk a little bit about what we need to do. Is that all right with y'all? So first, what do we want? Well, you all know, you've heard it already. We've been talking about what? We've been talking about the For the People Act. We've really been talking about three pieces of legislation: For the People Act, John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and as my brother Marcus talked about so clearly and passionately, H.R. 51, D.C. statehood. That's what we want. But we know that we got an impediment right now. And y'all know the impediment. We can't get a vote. In fact, I'm not even going to say we can't get a vote on the legislation. What you saw this week was we couldn't even get a vote on the debate about the legislation. We can't even get a vote about whether they're even going to talk about the legislation. So you get a 50-50 vote. Now, what we know the problem is there's that filibuster thing. And we know that right here in the state, we got a senator, you got a senator in West Virginia, Joe Manchin, who doesn't support ending or modifying the filibuster. Now, I don't really understand that, considering just a few years ago, he was one of the leaders in trying to end and modify the filibuster. So the problem is, I can't argue with Joe Manchin because I don't know which Joe Manchin to argue with. The one that understood that the filibuster is nothing but a relic of Jim Crow. The one who understood that the filibuster has always been used to block civil rights legislation. I don't know if I'm arguing with that one or the one we got today, who wants to bury voting rights and bury our humanity at the altar of bipartisanship. I don't know which one to argue with, but I know what we want. And when I say I know what we want, I'm not just talking about folks from Georgia. I'm not just talking about folks from Pennsylvania that are out there. I'm not just talking about folks from Vegas and from Texas and from all the other states, from Alabama, right? California. I'm not just talking about that. I'm talking about what the people of West Virginia want. Because 79% of the voters in this state where we stand right now, say that they want the For the People Act. That's what we want. And we know that in order to get that we got to end the Joe Manchin to be accountable to this community now. Now, everything we say here, y'all, no matter how passionate we get, no matter how heated we get, everything we say here comes from a space of love. Everybody say love. But what we understand is, just like Dr. King understood, is that you can't have love and not also talk about power, right? Just like he said, you can't have power and not talk about love. Because what King told us and what we understand and what our history shows us is that power without love is reckless and abusive. But what King also said, and people don't want to talk about this, what he also said was that love without power is sentimental and anemic. And when you're in a situation like what we're in right now, we can't do with just sentimental and anemic. When you're in a situation like we're in right now, where you got states passing voter suppression bills across the country, except for Texas, because we beat them in Texas, right? But when you got that situation, you can't just have sentimental and anemic. You got to have power to go along with it, right? So you got to have love, and you got power, and you got to have power. You got to have that agape love, right? Because you got to have that agape, you got to have that kind of love, because be clear, there's a certain kind of love where every now and then, in the spirit of love, you might flip over a couple of tables, right? But that's still love. You got to have the kind of love that says we're going to hold you accountable, because that's still love. And so it's in the spirit of love and power that we're saying to Joe Manchin, you got to do better, Joe. Because if Joe ain't going to do better, then Joe got to go. So that's what we want. Now let me say a little word about who we are, because there's some real similarities between West Virginia and some of these other states out there. And you just heard Latasha talking about Georgia, and we do a lot of work in states where a lot of other people don't want to do work. We do work in states like Georgia and Alabama and Mississippi and Louisiana, right? We do work in those states that they like to call what? Red states. We do work in those states where there's no investment, where there's no belief that they can change what those states look like. Now, we just showed them that wasn't true. But we do work in states where you got all kinds of, you got all kinds of perceptions and stereotypes. Like, people like to crack jokes about Alabama. People like to crack jokes about Mississippi. So there's some similarities between the states where we do our work and where some of these folks are from and West Virginia, right? Because y'all know a little bit of something about that, right? Y'all know that sometimes West Virginia gets ignored in my line. If I'm saying something untrue, y'all let me know. But if you hear something that sounds true, let me know. Y'all know that they don't invest in Appalachia, right? Y'all know that they got stereotypes about this state. Y'all know that there's a whole narrative out there in the media right now about West Virginia, about who won the state and how much they won the state by and what the voters in West Virginia looks like, right? And in none of these narratives do we see the people like who we got out here. We don't see black voters. We don't see the folks that Nsay was talking about. We don't see the black voters, the brown voters, the education voters, right? The environmental justice voters. They act like you don't exist. That's something that we know a little something about the South. So just like we say the South got something to say, we came here today because we know West Virginia got something to say. And we want to help you to be able to say, we want to help amplify those voices. We want to be here to show you that you are not alone. But the truth is this, West Virginia has always had something to say. In fact, the reason West Virginia exists is because it has something to say, right? The reason West Virginia exists is because when Virginia said that we're going to go to war in order to maintain a crime against humanity in the form of slavery, it was folks in West Virginia that said, hell no, we don't want no parts of that. That's how West Virginia was formed. West Virginia was formed out of a sense of racial justice and human rights. That's what West Virginia is. West Virginia's always had something to say. West Virginia's always had something to say. You heard some of the stuff that we talked about earlier today. West Virginia leading the way in terms of letting 18-year-olds vote and some other progressive policies. West Virginia's always got something to say. So that's who you are. But I want to do this, if you don't mind. I'm going to go a little bit more narrow now, because we are Black Voters Matter. So I'm going to do this. Black folks in West Virginia, have always had something to say. Black folks in West Virginia have always made a difference. In fact, it was a young black man who grew up, I think right here, maybe not here in Charleston, but not too far away. A man who grew up here named Carter G. Woodson, who would go on to become the father of black history. That's what West Virginia, that's what black West Virginia produced. Black West Virginia has always had something to say. Black West Virginia had sit-ins right here in this state. Y'all check it out. Black West Virginians had sit-ins right here in this state. CORE, right? Congress on Racial Equality. They had sit-ins here 2 years before Greensboro. Black West Virginia has always had something to say. That's the history. That's who you are. So I don't care how small you are in this state. I don't care if black folks are 2% or 3%. You always have people trying to tell you you're too small. And because you're so small, I'm going to tell you what you cannot do. I'm going to tell you what's impossible. But we have always been in the business as black folks in this country and in this state of taking that and making possible that which everybody else thinks is impossible, even at just 2 or 3% of this population. Because guess what? Joe Manchin in his last election ain't winning except for 2%, 3% of the population. That was black folks. So black folks got something to say. We got power, but we got to believe it. No matter how small we are, no matter how infinitesimal we are as a percentage of this population, we got to believe, because I read someplace that if you had the faith of a mustard seed, you could tell that mountain to move from here and go over there. I read that someplace. Now, I don't know about you, if I don't know how many of y'all have ever seen a mustard seed. In fact, what the word says, if you had the faith of a grain of a mustard seed, that's a pretty small amount right there, right? Mustard seed is small already, but the grain of a mustard seed, then you can move mountains. So I'm here to say, black West Virginia, I'm here to say progressive West Virginia, I'm here to say to all those who believe in freedom, I don't care what your percentage of the population is. I don't care what your percentage of the vote is. If you have the faith of the mustard seed, you can move mountains. That's what we're here to say. If you got the faith of a mustard seed, you got the power to move a mountain, even when that mountain is named Joe Manchin. That's the power that you got. So I don't know where this is going to go. I don't know what might happen in the future, but this is what I know. There may come a day, West Virginia, there may come a day, black West Virginia, where we may turn our backs on that history of how this state was created. We may turn our backs on the fact that this state took a stand for human rights and human dignity and equality. That day may come. But I'm here to tell you, today is not that day. There may come a day where we turn our backs on that civil rights history, of that workers' unity, of that union unity, right? There may come a day where we believe the lies that have been told about this state and black folks in this state and people of good hearts in this state. There may come a day where we fail to act. But today is not that day. There may come a day where we ignore the fact that a black woman, the only black woman that works in that building representing the people, would come out here in the midst of warning her son on her son's birthday, say his name, Dimitri Walker. There may come a day where we ignore that act of strength and resilience and sacrifice and determination. There may be a day where we ignore all of that and turn our backs. But guess what? Today is not that day. So what I need y'all to do is, if you believe that we got the power to end this filibuster, if you believe that we got the power to get this voting rights that we deserve, I need you to put a fist up and say, I am. a freedom rider. I am a freedom rider. I am a freedom rider. Come on and join us in D.C., y'all. Let's send that message all the way there. Let's go. We love y'all.